good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's April 1st. Wishing everyone a wonderful start to the month of April. Happy Passover. We just had Passover on Saturday, Good Friday, tomorrow, Easter Sunday. And so just wishing everyone a peaceful holiday season. And if you're on spring break and making time to join us this morning with LegacyED News, thank you so much. I'm Dr. Selma Bartholomew from Partner with Legacy, and sending you greetings from myself and the entire team. It's Thursday morning, so we get to have our LegacyED News this morning. I'm excited to talk with Tracey Haqq. She is a licensed master's in social work with more than 20 plus years of experience. And so today we're going to be having a real authentic conversation about social emotional wellness and mindfulness, especially in this time, in this climate, as we continue to deal with this pandemic. But it's also looking ahead, right? We are here to always look ahead and to think about solutions and strategies. So I'm Dr. B. Grab your morning coffee, your morning tea. I've got my water as we're talking wellness today. So we'll get a chance to, to share some of those strategies with Tracey. Call a friend, anybody you know with a heart, let them know that we are on LegacyED News this morning. And so I'm excited to have everyone. And even though it's April 1st, we just ended Women's Month. So I also want to give a special shout out to our guest for her dynamic work around social emotional wellness and supporting our children. As always, I always like to start with our LegacyED News, and I'm going to keep it nice and tight this morning because we've got so much to talk about. So I want to give a special shout out to Atlanta, to the Coretta Scott King Young Women's Leadership Academy. It's a school in Atlanta, and they serve about 330 students. And they recently received the designation for STEM and recognition for their work in STEM with their students. So a special shout out for keeping the work focused and for doing what needs to be done to really change what we know and understand about workforce development and looking ahead, especially in this context, science, technology, engineering, the arts, and mathematics. So kudos to the Coretta Scott King Young Women's Leadership Academy. Also in Atlanta, we know that our hearts and prayers go out to the community in Atlanta that's been impacted by the tornadoes. So we have a few school districts that remain closed. So on top of everything else, we've got COVID-19, and also they are dealing with a tornado. So the Coretta School District in Atlanta remains closed until April 9th. A quick update in California. We're always dealing with this on a personal level in terms of trying to keep our information safe, but the University of California reports that they were cyber attacked and hacked this week. And how did they find out? Well, the hackers were, bold enough to post individuals' personal information online. And so those who were affected, or if you think that you were affected, as part of the UC community, please make sure and check. But this is something that we're dealing with, not just in the University of California. We've had several school districts as well over the past year that has been impacted by it. And we thank them for being open and honest about it so that we know that, that this is a real issue. Not just for large institutions, but for small ones as well. So today I'm excited. So once again, call a friend, hit the like button, and subscribe to the channel. And so we're here to talk today about social emotional wellness. And so I'm honored to have Tracey Haqq with us. She's a mom and 20 plus years of experience and expertise. And so let me give her a chance to greet the audience. And then we're going to be talking about also mindfulness. And so she is also a breathing, and I want to make sure I get this right, a breathing specialist, folks. And so we are in for a real treat this morning. Tracey, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here to speak about, social emotional learning for our community, deep breathing, and hypnotherapy. So excited.
And, what I'm curious about is, I know that within our work with schools,
Yes.
We hear the term social emotional wellness and mindfulness.
Yes.
And so for any parent who's listening, and also even for educators who think that we might know the term, can you just give us a sense as to what exactly is it? How do you define social and emotional wellness?
So as with CASEL, which is one of the leading organizations that deal with social emotional learning, I would say, it's self-awareness, knowing about yourself and who you are, who I am, what I need, self-management. And I don't mean control of your emotions. I mean to understand your emotions, because we're not trying to control our kids. That's the misconception. I'm not trying to control them. I want them to understand what the emotions that they have, what they're feeling. And we don't talk about that enough, even as adults. What do we feel? What am I feeling right now? I feel this. Usually you push it down
Yes.
and then you go off on somebody else that had nothing to do with, the issue. So, and relationships, how do we communicate? How do I relate to you? Our community, our responsibility within our community, correct decision making. What do I do after I know my emotion? What do I do now? Those are the things that the components that I really look to when I'm talking about social emotional learning. And for us, I think one of the key things is self-awareness. Really.
I love that. I love that idea. So you hit several really great points. So first, self-awareness, to be
Right.
aware of how you're feeling. And absolutely, I think, culturally and historically, given our experience, well, certainly as a person of color, but I don't think it's only individuals of color. I think that it's just historically you're told, right, to suck it up,
Yes.
to move
Right.
forward. And there's something wrong with you if if somebody asks you, you're having a good day and you don't, and you say, okay, genuinely, I'm not feeling well today, or this is how I, respond. So I do get that sense in terms of, self-awareness. I don't think that most people think of it in the context of relationships and how our children go about having good relationships with themselves and also with others. What are you finding in terms of the pandemic? How do you think that the pandemic has impacted the social and emotional wellness? And I guess it's two things. There's the social piece and then there's the emotional piece from as a result of the pandemic.
Well, working in a school, as you said, I'm a social worker in a school, in elementary school. And what I find is the relationship part is big. Kids want to be with other kids and they miss that. Even with the distancing, they have a hard time keeping the distance because kids love to be next to other kids. That. They want to play together. Those type of things. So they kind of miss that, especially with the kids who are remote. And one of the things that we do in our school is we have a deep breathing session in the morning. But we'll get to that later.
I absolutely want to get to that. Absolutely. So she's in a space where they actually make a real commitment to
Yes.
social emotional wellness. I feel like certainly in our work with Legacy, we work hard to equip our teachers with strategies in their classroom. So we do things like compliment cards and respect and rapport and having those conversations around what that looks like and what that sounds like and what that feels like. But in terms of I guess that rhetoric piece where I hear it, but I don't necessarily see it. How do you even go about, because you gave the instance where you said, okay, we have it in my school, so I'm going to hold on that. But if you're a parent or you're an educator and you want to make social and emotional wellness come alive within your school, where do you start? Who do you start with in that conversation?
Well, you start with, I believe you start with making things, when you're putting stuff on the screen, you make sure that they are culturally sensitive to the people that your audience. We as a people of color have been inundated with others, other people's culture. But when you want someone to understand who they are, where they come from, there are a lot of things that even when you're reading, you should understand that it should be culturally sensitive. So maybe a child of color, if you're in a school with children of color, getting them to understand where they came from, not just what other people say where we came from, but where we actually came from. The fact that there are great inventors who are people of color that date back to the 1800s. So it's something that we have to do in order for us to feel worthy about who we are and be self-aware. And that's missing. It still is missing.
I love that layer of self-awareness, because I think when most people hear it, they think about it only in the moment and not a true definition of self and crafting your identity and knowing who you are and who shows up, so that you're not always, right, questioning, and that you feel confident in no matter what the space you are. And if you don't have a historical perspective, and if you never see yourself in the textbooks, and if you never see yourself, in the building and in those spaces, then you begin to see that, or feel that you're not worthy and you're not valued. And I refer to it as certainly the social reproduction of failure. And so in terms of strategies, so you're also a deep breathing specialist. So can you give us a context within your school environment? What does social emotional wellness look like and feel like or sound like in your space?
Well, with social emotional learning in our school, like I said, we have, even in certain things, math problems or things that you want to put up, people of color who are doing those type of things. Sometimes we don't even see ourselves in those little things. And then you think you can't do it. And that's not true. You can do it. So we have a positive mindset, everything, even if you make the mistakes, that's fine, because that's how you learn. You have to have that and let kids know, even adults, that it's okay to make a mistake, because that's how you learn from your mistakes. You may not know it yet, and yet is the key, because it's coming. So we do that. And the social emotional part in the morning, which is the deep breathing, it's actually in our day. So wait,
so you're saying you actually have time at the beginning of the day where students actually engage in deep breathing?
Yes. And I really, this year, especially because of the school and us being in the pandemic, social emotional learning is a push. And sometimes these things are a fad, they come in and they go out, because academics is so important, but social emotional learning is very important, because if a kid doesn't know who they are, where they belong in this world, they become lost. We are a major part of this world and the development of this world. And it didn't start with slavery. It's not just because of slavery. People have done major things that we need to understand. So yes, it is a part of our curriculum. So in the morning, we come together as a community, in person and remote, and we take time to feel what's going on the inside. And one of the students, said to me, it helps me to get the mad out. And that's the best way he can say it. It helps him to release that anger or that negative energy he may have picked up. So we take at least 20 minutes to sit and deep breathe, and then focus on how we're feeling on the inside, becoming resilient so we can go on with our day. And we also infuse at that time at the end. So we do our I ams. I am strong. I am powerful. I am worthy. I am intelligent. I am thankful. I am happy, and I am loved. And anything for kids with repetition is what sinks in. So what you say is very powerful, because it really is what you believe. And over repetition, I want the kids to understand that they could do anything. They are intelligent. Whether they see something outside that looks different than them, I want you to know that you are very intelligent. You're powerful. You could do anything. It's a mindset. Don't let anyone take that away from you. So we do our I ams. We do a pledge, and sometimes, like, because it was Women's History, every day we did a person of color, whether it was African American woman, Latina. We did a woman of color and showed that, listen, this is a history that we have, and it's very important to know.
So thank you for that. So our audience who are listening, please make sure you like and subscribe. And when I sent out a message this morning, I asked those who are viewing to put in the comments your I am. So right? I am loving this journey. And I love the fact
Yes.
that you are pointing to that you can start with something as simple as just beginning your day with an I am, and to own it, and
Yes.
to walk it. And sometimes I say, if you got to fake the funk for a little while, then fake it until you make it.
That's
And
right.
it's okay
Right.
to recognize that. And so for those viewers, please make sure you put your I am in the comment box. What is your I am, and how did you start your day today? Can you give us a sense? And I think that what you're pointing to, especially, and I love that example of that young student who says, I need to get rid of the mad. As I look at the news and we see so much of the physical violence. And I think that the passive violence is what fuels it, right? You didn't just get up one day and decide to hit somebody over the head, that
Right.
you have not learned how to deal with your anger. You didn't learn how to deal with your emotions. And if you were in a place, in a space where it's always that physical, and that's how you learned how to solve your problem. What's the journey like? Because you said that you were a deep breathing specialist. And
Yeah.
so you're the first deep breathing specialist I've met. And so tell me, what is the journey if somebody wanted to, to support their child and even themselves, because as parents, as adults, we need this as well.
Oh,
So
yes.
what is the journey like if you're going to engage with a deep breathing specialist?
Well, my journey was actually studying people of color and the anxiety and stress that we have. So that began my journey. I also studied why we always feel as if we are wrong.
Mm,
We are not worthy. Uh, and the pathology behind that, it sits in us. Trauma sits in you and is carried from childhood all the way up to adulthood and becomes disease in your body. So I started studying and I realized that stress is killing us as a community. And what I found, the easiest way to relieve that stress is to do deep breathing. Just we breathe every day, but what happens is we're not taking a deep breath. So taking a deep breath actually activates the vagus nerve within your body to calm you down. So
mm,
at any given point, if you're feeling stressed, even with the kids, when you have to take a test, they're in a situation where they need to focus and they really need to problem solve, they can take a deep breath and relax themselves and center themselves. And that's what I teach them in the morning. Come back to your center. Know what you're feeling on the inside so you can be prepared to handle whatever task is at hand. Focus, when you have to take a test, you get those nerves. It's a natural thing. How do I calm myself down so I can focus on taking this test? Some people have a severe test anxiety,
mhm.
and
Yes.
just taking a deep breath will help them to focus. And that's how I really got to it, by looking at us as a people: high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, obesity. All of these things come from, well, not all of it, but a lot of it has to do with the stress that's in your body.
Agreed. Mhm.
Come from the stress that's in your body, because when you're in the fight, flight, or freeze, your body is not thinking about your immune system. And
Yes.
this is the really major thing that I found out, especially during COVID, because if you're stressed, and as a people, we are so severely stressed that your body is only thinking about the danger that it's in, and it's not helping your immune system. So your immune system is decreased. So
Yes.
you're more prone to get colds,
Yes.
flus, things that we
Mhm.
have. So you see that our community has been.
Ravaged by COVID. Yes.
Exactly. And stress is a major thing. We have to really look at it. So I wanted to start our kids early, so they have a tool that they can use, that they will not be as stressed as we are. Stress is something that the mind is so serious, is that you can actually be in a stressful situation, or your mind can perceive a stressful situation. And the perception of a stressful situation for us and for a lot of people: bills,
Yes.
relationships, um, going to work, going
Driving, all of
walk
it.
right, walking in a violent community, you feel stress. That may not be an actual danger, like someone is coming at you, but your mind feels and your body feels the same way. So when you're living under chronic stress, your body is not working the way it should. Your heart is racing all the time. Your blood has to pump all the time.
Mhm.
And those things lead to heart issues, high blood pressure. Even I realized with stress, infertility, because
Yes.
it's so amazing. Because when you're in a stressful situation, your body is not thinking about reproducing. And men fertility issues, women fertility issues. Your immune system and all the other chronic diseases that we have can come from the stress that we under. So I want our young people to have a tool, like I said, so that they know how to regulate their body and bring it back to where it needs to be.
I thank you for that, and it's so true. And I think that the reality is there's almost no space where you could see individuals of color truly thriving. Right? There's no space. There's no workspace that I know of. In Hollywood, they may put on that facade that everything is
Right,
great in the movie land, but it's not. And so the things that they've got to go to in that environment, in the education space. And so it feels like if no matter where you are, you're constantly being pushed, right? Pushed
right.
again. It's very hard, you're absolutely right, to just learn how to take that breath. And it is so needed. And I'm so thankful for this conversation because certainly, yes, as adults, we need to model that for ourselves, but also to know that when we talk, we do a lot of things around in education where you mentioned that pendulum swinging. So we've been talking about the school to prison pipeline for too long now. We need to
Mhm.
now go after strategies and not give rhetoric to things like social and emotional learning, not give rhetoric to
Right,
art, not give rhetoric to the fact that are we truly doing STEM? We have to now put the resources and put our money where our mouth is in order to create a space that is holistic. And we do work with several schools who do that. I've got a school in Brooklyn, East New York, they do Morning Star. And so, and I know that several of our partners, we spend a lot of time talking about it, but it's not the norm. We are told,
right.
I got a text from a teacher just now. She's like, oh, my school told me to do social and emotional wellness for COVID, and they did no training on it. They just assumed
Right,
adult, you're going to go and figure out, how to
right.
do it when they're pushing everything else. So for those who are listening, please make sure to like and subscribe. And we want to be able to continue this conversation,
Mhm.
with Tracey Haqq around social emotional wellness. Can you, I guess, in terms of, as I'm mindful of the time, but I want to also ask, when we how do you know it's working? How would you, if you have a child, if you've got, someone that you're working with who is struggling, with anger, and even if they're not struggling, I guess I should say that, moms and dads, right? It's not just, oh, my kid is having an issue. You
Mhm.
really want to embrace this so that it becomes part of your life and part of your mindset. And as a parent, I don't have a little one anymore, but there are things that you have to do, like, hey, are you having dinner at the table? Are you becoming aware of our children have so much anxiety.
Yes.
So if they're in their room and they're eating, and then later on they end up with an eating disorder or they end up with all of these things, it's because, right, we've got to make that circle for us. So I'm curious in terms of, based on your work and your years of experience, if I was a parent and I'm trying this deep breathing, or I'm trying to create a space for mindfulness, how would I begin to know if it's actually, working before I kind of give up on it?
Well, a lot of stuff that we do, you don't see immediate results. It's something that you implant in your kid from the beginning, so they have that tool later on. But it's so funny, when teens when they get to be teens, they don't want to have anything to do with you, and you might not know that they're making better decisions
Yeah.
based on what you showed them as a child, because they have an opportunity to, let me just take a minute and reflect on what's going on in this situation, and maybe I'm going to leave.
Mm.
This is not where I need to be, because I care about myself. I care
Well,
about my well-being. I'm not going to stay here. Or, when they're taking a test, they have the opportunity to take a deep breath and relax and focus themselves. And we don't give enough credit to doing that deep breath. Really, it's we breathe every day, but we don't get enough of the oxygen into our body. Our brain takes about 20% of the 20 to 25% of the oxygen is needed by your brain. So if you don't have that, you're not as focused as you need to be. So the kids will, I see it because I talk to them all the time and I'm different from their parents. So what I see is, you know, they'll tell me that right before I took the test, because I work also with Hofstra, right before I took the test, I did the deep breathing that you showed me and I got a good grade. I almost wanted to cry,
Yeah.
because they attributed to the fact that they had to calm down and
Mhm.
they utilized the tool that I work with them on. And it wasn't even that long. So just imagine the pre-K and the kindergarten kid who's learning this right now. So I have a little kindergarten girl who's in the deep breathing, and she's so excited that she says the I ams before everybody. And and I'm like, hold up, wait a minute. And it's so exciting because this is something that she's going to carry. I am strong. I want you to believe that you're strong. I
Yes.
want you to believe that you're powerful and you're intelligent. Don't let anybody take that from you. So when parents do this with their kids and they can explain to them that we're learning how to do a technique that can help you in your health and mental well-being and help you to make proper choices. And we could do this as a family. There's nothing better than to do it, a mother and her children, a whole mother, father, and grandma sitting down, taking a minute and just talking about how I feel. If a child
Mhm.
could tell you, I feel a certain way, you should be happy. Even if they say, I'm mad, I feel mad at you, mommy.
Yes.
It's okay. I'm glad you feel mad. Now we're going to talk about what we're going to do about it. I'm still the mom, but I understand that you're upset. That's good.
Yes.
Because then if it's not sitting inside of you and it's coming out, we can handle it. If it's sitting inside, it's getting pressed down, and then it explodes. We know people, we see things like this. And that happens to a lot of our kids who are angry about maybe not home situation, but what's going on in the community. We see
Yes.
people of men of color, women of color, um, dying.
Yes. Mhm.
And that causes trauma
It does.
because, when they walk out the door, you don't know and they don't know what's going to happen. They're doing the best that they can. So if they can take a minute in a confrontation and say, let me make a different choice. Let me just, I either have to defend myself, which is possible. Let me think about what I have to do. Maybe I could walk away from the situation. Maybe I could talk about it and just diffuse the situation. Let me just breathe for a second and not react.
Well said, well said. And it is historically based as well. Control of thoughts and control of actions. For those who are listening, please make sure you like and subscribe. This is our Legacy Ed News, and I want to ask you, Tracey, if you can let everyone know where to find you. Where to find you. And then my last question is, it takes courage to do. And so let me ask you first, if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, how would we find you? And to get started in learning about deep breathing and the transformational work that we need to do as parents, as
Yes.
well as for our children, for our educators who are listening.
Well, it's so funny. I really started doing this during the COVID. I mean, I've been doing the deep breathing and learning, and I really put this out, because so many people are so stressed. And I said, as a community, let's come together and do deep breathing and connect with one another. This is not new to us. This is something that people of color have been doing, coming together as a community and helping one another. So, I was doing a group of women that we came together. It was supposed to be for like a week. It turned out to 2 months
Wow.
because they love to come together, take a moment for themselves and do deep breathing and do positive affirmations. So people can reach me at transformationalhealings.org, which you see on the screen. They can reach me there. I am on Instagram, Tracey Haqq, which is my name. You can reach me there. I'm going to be starting a YouTube channel, just like yourself, based on just sitting and doing deep breathing and doing guided deep breathing. So, with the guided deep breathing, I'm really talking to the inner soul about healing and
Mhm.
healing your body, because your body can heal itself. So, healing the cells of your body, bringing in positive energy and releasing negative and toxic energy out. So I do one-on-one sessions. I teach people all the time how to do this deep breathing. So you can reach me, and you can see the website is right on the screen.
And I thank you for that. And for those on a very, personal note, as we come to a close, I wrote an article recently for Health in Her Hue. Health in Her Hue. You can search it, where I talked about this past year where I was dealing as breast cancer, and
Mhm.
what got me through it was yoga. I went into yoga
Yes.
initially thinking I was there to help my back because I drove a lot,
Hmm.
always on the road. And so my back was letting me know, hey, it's time to stop. But in reality, it was the techniques that I learned in yoga that helped me through this past year, right? You're laying out all the time. You're on this,
Yes.
this table, everybody's kind of poking at you. And if you allow your mind, and if you give in, right, to
Right.
pain, and if you give in to, oh my goodness, why is this happening to me, and you kind of take on that mindset, it doesn't work. You
Right.
don't get through it in any way. And so it was that deep breathing yoga that allowed
Hmm.
me at any point that I could just tap into and just go there and just breathe and be okay with the breath and be intentional about how I wanted the experience to be for myself. And I was not necessarily in my 20s a yoga fan at all. I love to
Right.
box. I love Muhammad Ali. Anybody who knows me know that. And so it
Me
was a
too.
journey. And I really wished that I'd gotten it at an early age. I took dance at an early age at Roberto Clemente School in Harlem.
Hmm.
And that is still with me. So when we're having this conversation, I want for our audience, and I so appreciate everyone for always tuning in, that we're really trying to offer real solutions and strategies that we know that work. So we can no longer look at our children in pain and think that when we quote unquote come out of this pandemic, what do you think? We're going to be out of it in a month, 2 months?
Right.
Let's be real. This is a current state that we are in, but we have to be forward thinking and equip ourselves and our children with solutions. So I'm so thankful that you mentioned that piece around, the success of doing this and why it matters. And so we look forward to connecting with you and to supporting you in transformationalhealings.org. And we invite you back to share
Yes.
dates, and to certainly you can find her on Instagram. It's HAQQ is her last name. It's Tracey, Tracey HAQQ. And yes, she is on Instagram, and absolutely at transformationalhealings.org. So my
Yes.
final question for you, Tracey, is it takes courage to do what? It takes courage to do what? As you reflect on your journey and on this work with schools, it takes courage to do.
Really, it takes courage to be your authentic self, just to step out and really be proud of who you are, be your authentic self. And even when the world is not appreciating you, be your authentic self and learn new things that other people may not know. Other people sometimes, when you're out there doing things and they don't know, they kind of ridicule you, like, what is that? But learn new things. There's nothing wrong, especially for our kids and our adults. There's a wealth of information out there. Learning is the key. It really is. And I'm not saying you have to do everything is not in school. Sometimes you have to do your own learning. You have to study and continue to study. So for me, it's really to be my authentic self. I'm giggly sometimes, I'm cerebral sometimes,
Yes.
and I want to be my authentic self and stepping out, because we're always put in a box. You should be this, you should be that, you should look like this, you should look like that. Stepping out to be your authentic self is so important.
Thank you, thank you. And you should know, so I have several members of the community, and oftentimes they may not put the comments in the box, but my phone is blowing up and everyone is texting saying, thank you so much to you for having an authentic conversation and letting them know that meditation can start as early as pre-K or earlier. And they believe in what you're saying and it works. So thank you so much. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your voice and for the wonderful work that you're doing on behalf of children and families. For those who are listening, again, thank you again for joining our Partner with Legacy community. April 22nd, save the date, our webinar on transformational leadership. We've got a member from Brooklyn Community Services. We're going to have a principal with us, and also another transformational leader doing some wonderful work in the South. And we hope to do a LegacyED News next week. Of course, you can find us, check us on LinkedIn and on Facebook as well. And once again, you can find Tracey on transformationalhealings.org. And we look forward to connecting with everyone again. Thank you, everyone, and have a really great day, a happy Easter, and a wonderful spring break.